Hey guys, welcome back to the BuzWeaver channel, and in today's top stories, and will probably be a top story for the next 7 months, Democrat anxiety grows over Biden's dismal polls. That is correct. Democrats are growing increasingly worried about President Biden's standing in the polls even months out from the midterm elections. Now, it may be fair to say that Democrats could be worried about a number of things, particularly inflation, gas prices, food prices, shortages, so forth and so on. But of course, the article is specifically talking about his poll numbers because, as we all know, the Democrats' metric for its virtue is popularity. Biden hasn't seen a boost in his approval ratings aimed at Russia's war in Ukraine, despite support among Americans for the steps that he has taken. Now, I would say probably a lot of people are wanting and looking for him to take some sort of steps and or measures to deal with Russia. Of course, stopping Russia entirely is only going to be could only be met with kinetic warfare. And of course, we're not going to resort to that, I am hoping. But suffice it to say, I know a lot of people are very excited that this is all happening, but believe me, and we have seen it during the Trump campaign, the level of hate that Democrats are able to generate with the left, with big tech, with activists, with special interest. All of these groups can work together, and sometimes they do wait till the last minute to spring all this because they want that emotional charge to happen just as the campaigns and so forth and the elections come up. But it is dismal, and as I understand it, as of today, as of this recording, as you guys are watching, it is Tuesday, April the 5th, and Barack Obama is at the White House, of course, to maybe generate a little bit of joy or hope within the Democrat Party, because if the media, Hollywood, special interest, activists, tech giants can't help Joe Biden right now, he is and they are in trouble from that perspective. But like I say, never underestimate the Democrats' ability to come in and attack any of their rivals, as we saw with President Trump, and they can do it. So it will be interesting to see what they end up doing. Now, his disapproval is at 53.8. That's with a plus 12.8 error or margin of error. Wow. So it could actually technically be much higher. I don't think his approval would be much higher. Maybe 2 more points, and then you add the additional 10 to disapproval, and you might be more in the neighborhood of what's actually happening. But that is the aggregate. Real Clear Politics is a great source because it is properly aggregated. Biden warns food shortages are going to be real across the globe because of Putin invading the world's breadbasket, Ukraine. Now, I don't know how much the Democrats or Joe Biden can continue to push the Putin is the bad guy causing all this trouble in the world, because they're supposed to have solutions, right? If you have a problem in the world, or if you have a problem with Putin, then if it's affecting the United States, then you need to find solutions, not blame. Find solutions that are going to fix the problem. But the problem is that the Democrats tried to appeal to about 13% of the population. That would be the vocal small minority who will come out and try to do and make him look as bad as possible. But that is very difficult to do, considering with what the states are going through right now. It's very difficult to make Joe Biden look any worse than he already is. And it's going to get worse, as he says here, with the food shortages. As we know, this is going to continue to get bad. And I think people are going to have a big wake-up call. But we're going to talk about that when we get to a BlackRock here in just a moment. But suffice it to say, even Biden is coming out and saying, look, there's going to be food shortages like we saw when he was over in Europe. And the significance of this is very important because Russia-Ukraine crisis ignites fertilizer prices at critical time for world crops. And that's true. Russia is the world's biggest exporter of fertilizer, but its war with Ukraine has disrupted shipping and driven up prices for natural gas, among other things. But as you can see here, Russia dominates nitrogen fertilizer exports. I mean, that is massive. And I like this graph. I posted it quite a few times on my social media, so if you haven't already, be sure you follow me on the social media. You can find those links below this video. And of course, this would be a great time to smash that like button to show that 2020 AI algorithm that conservative commentary is welcome here on the YouTube platform. And of course, I don't want to recognize those on Rumble, Odyssey, and BitChute for your guys' support as well. Little plug there. And so Among Democrats, we know there is a problem. Among Joe Biden, we know there is a problem. But here we have Kamala's deputy chief of staff becomes 11th aide to leave in mass exodus. So Michael Fuchs heads for the door of the VP's office as she brings in speechwriter who used to work for Bill Gates. Now, these types of changes aren't unusual. They can be a bit unusual at certain times, particularly when midterms are coming up. And as we can see here, Vice President Kamala Harris, Deputy Chief Staff Michael Fuchs is set to leave in the administration on May 11th. So he's not leaving like right away. So it's not like it's a sudden thing. But we also know that Jen Psaki is also leaving. So it is kind of interesting. And speaking of leaving, waves of House Democrat retirement stokes fears for party's election prospects. That's right. 31 Democrats, a modern record, are stepping down as the party risks bleak midterms, but leaders say hope remains. So this is a very key phrase right here, or sentence, or ending of one, or beginning of one, because believe me, the Democrats will come up with something. It'll be absolutely ridiculous, but they will come up with it, and they'll run with it, and in the mainstream media, and the tech giants, the activists, and special interests will all run with it to help the Democrats out. But this is very significant. The actual article itself is really not all that relevant, because the significance of this is that these are things the Democrats can see. These are things that the mainstream media can see. These are things that the big tech giants can see, activists can see, or maybe not all of them, because people are still commenting about how amazing Joe Biden is. Well, he might be quite amazing to help Republicans sweep the House and the Senate, perhaps, so that part he might be very good at. And as we see here from Real Clear Politics, another aggregate, this is the 2020 generic congressional vote. And you can see here that the Republicans are leading by 3 points, roughly, 3.6 if you want to get, I guess, technical. And this is very, very alarming to Democrats who base a lot of their things on polls, as well as popularity, of course. And this is very concerning for them. I guess it's just refreshing on its own. And this is very concerning for them because these polls typically give you a pretty good idea of what we can expect. Now, you guys know, if you've been following the channel, I'm not a big fan of polls because we see how they are incredibly inaccurate when they come out, because just like we saw with President Trump in the 2020 election, where there was certain projections of his winning or losing and Joe Biden's winning or losing, and they were completely wrong. I don't want to go into all that because it's ridiculous, but suffice it to say here, this is what has set the Democrats into a panic. From BlackRock, president of BlackRock. Okay, the reason I even chose this article is because I've seen both Tim Pool and Luke bring this up, We Are Change. And I think it was important to emphasize this as well, as they have brought it up. President of BlackRock investment firm warns an entitled generation needs to brace for shock of shortages and higher inflation. Experts warn Americans will pay an extra $433 a month for basic goods this year. But the reason I wanted to bring up this article, and I'm glad they did as well, and that's Robert Capito, who is the head of BlackRock. So if you want a name and a face to the establishment, or a person that I could name when I say establishment, it would definitely be Rob Capito, without a doubt. And there's a picture of him right there. If you just want to see what a entitled, elitist establishment person looks like, it's a bit bombastic there, but suffice it to say, that's BlackRock co-founder Rob Capito right there. But nonetheless, so he's basically warning his ilk, the people that, well, he's not particularly concerned about, the establishment is not particularly concerned about the American people. They're concerned about their pockets and whether or not they can make back all the money they lost during President Trump's administration. So suffice it to say, BlackRock is warning people. The president is warning people. The Democrats are panicked and oftentimes warn people, but mostly blame. So now you can see that it is going to be a very, very, very interesting midterms. You know that no matter the outcome, the Democrats will come up with half a dozen reasons, blame, whatever you want to call it, as to why they lost and why they got swept away. But the obvious and the obvious will be there, and the reality of it will be there, because people already know. Americans don't have to understand politics. You don't even have to like politics to realize that things just aren't right. And when people are affected, specifically people when it comes to gas, food shortages, these are things that people can tangibly see versus ideological issues that they kept talking about with Trump. You know, his character, his demeanor, his personality, all these sorts of really intangible things. But people do understand tangible things when it affects them specifically. And so since they feel they are being affected, since they feel like they too want to blame someone, President Biden is that target. So this is a big, big problem for the Democrats. But that's what I had for you guys today on this Tuesday, stormy Tuesday here in Georgia on April the 5th. If you haven't already, guys, be sure you are, or that you've hit that like button. And if you're following this on Rumble, Odyssey, and BitChute, make sure you're following me there and click a like there as well. And of course, here on YouTube, that would be the channel icon appearing right there on the screen. You can click on that to subscribe as well as get notifications. And I will see you guys in the next video.